In the rarefied air of the city's upper atmosphere, where the glass towers of the billionaire class pierce the clouds like jagged needles, respect isn't earned, it's bought, sold, and traded like a commodity. I spent 5 grueling years as the executive shadow to Julian Thorne, a man whose net worth was only surpassed by his monstrous, unchecked arrogance. To the outside world, Julian was a titan of industry, but to me he was a study in the dark art of dehumanization. I lived in the silent, cold corners of his $40 million penthouse, a space that felt less like a home and more like a high-altitude vault constructed of marble, chrome, and unearned pride. My role was simple yet impossible. I was to be a ghost, a presence that anticipated his every biological need before his own brain could register it. I knew the precise temperature he required his morning espresso, exactly 162 degrees, and I knew the specific vintage of scotch that could soothe his nerves after a day of crushing his competitors. In Julian's eyes, I wasn't a person with a history or a soul. I was a high-end appliance, a piece of sentient furniture designed to make his life frictionless. I watched from the shadows as he treated the world like his personal waste bin, dismissing waiters with a flick of his wrist and treating experts like slow-witted children. The penthouse was a cathedral of ego, filled with priceless art that he never looked at and books he never read, all illuminated by the sterile glow of city lights. I was the keeper of his secrets, the holder of his passwords, and the silent witness to the ways he trampled over the dignity of others just because he could. I became a master of the invisible, ensuring that my presence never disturbed the carefully curated image of his solitary greatness. But as the years bled into one another, the weight of his insults began to create a hairline fracture in my resolve. Every "Leo, you're an idiot," and every "remember your place," was a stone added to a heavy pile I carried in my chest. I watched the golden sun set from the world's most expensive view, realizing that even in this palace of glass, I was just a prisoner in a cage, waiting for the moment the glass would finally shatter. I mastered the art of breathing without a sound, of walking without a footprint, and of existing without being seen. I was more than a witness. I was a living archive of his sins, waiting for the one mistake that even his money couldn't fix. The breaking point arrived not with a thunderclap, but with a single, microscopic drop of water during the most important night of Julian's professional life. The deal of the century was unfolding in the penthouse boardroom, a space dominated by a monolithic table of ancient, dark wood that seemed to swallow the light. 6 of the most powerful tech investors in the world sat in silence as Julian performed his greatest act yet. He spoke of synergy and ethical leadership, his voice dripping with a calculated sincerity that nauseated me. I moved through the room with the practiced grace of a phantom, refreshing drinks and ensuring the air remained perfectly chilled. I reached out to place a crystal tumbler of sparkling water next to Julian's hand, my movements as precise as a Swiss watch. But fate is a fickle thing. As I retracted my hand, a single stray bead of condensation slipped from the side of the glass and landed squarely on the cuff of Julian's $5,000 jacket. The world seemed to drop into slow motion. Julian stopped speaking mid-sentence. He stared at his sleeve as if I had just poured acid on his skin. When he looked up at me, the visionary leader was gone, replaced by a creature fueled by pure malice. In front of the very men he was trying to impress, Julian began to systematically dismantle my humanity with a surgical precision that left the investors visibly recoiling. "Look at this," he hissed, his voice a serrated blade. 5 years of my payroll, and you still have the clumsy, bumbling hands of a peasant. This is the problem with your kind, Leo. You think that by standing near greatness, some of it might rub off on you. But you are small. You are a fly on a windshield. You have the soul of a servant, and that is all you will ever be. He stood up, his chair screeching against the floor. Pack your things. You have 10 minutes to vanish from this building before security drags you out like the trash you are. You're not just fired, you're erased. I didn't say a word. I felt the heat of 100 eyes on me, but my face remained a mask of iron. I bowed slightly, the ultimate gesture of the servant he so despised, and walked toward the service elevator. It was only when the heavy steel doors hissed shut that I saw it. In his theatrical violent outburst, Julian's movements had been so erratic that the black woven lanyard around his neck had snagged on the sharp carving of his throne. It had snapped silently, and there it was, lying in the deep pile of the Persian rug, the master key. It was an encrypted hardware drive containing the digital DNA of his entire empire. I reached down, my fingers closing around the cool metal. The trash had just picked up the keys. The rain began to fall in heavy sheets as I stepped out into the dark alleyway. I walked until I reached a small, dimly lit diner. I sat in a corner booth and placed the master key on the table next to a steaming mug. I watched the digital clock on the wall, its red numbers ticking away with mechanical indifference. I knew exactly how long it would take for the adrenaline to wear off and for Julian to realize his neck was suddenly, terrifyingly light. Exactly 42 minutes later, my phone began to vibrate. It was Julian. I let it ring until it went to voicemail. On the fourth attempt, I answered. The voice that came through the speaker was the high-pitched, jagged squeal of a man who had just realized his parachute was made of lead. Leo. The drive. I know you have it. Bring it back this instant or I will have the police burn your life to the ground. I'll pay you anything. Just get it here before the signing. I took a slow sip of my coffee. I'm sorry, Julian, I said, my voice as steady as a funeral march. But you made it very clear that I am the help. And according to the ironclad security protocols you forced me to sign, a terminated employee is strictly prohibited from handling high-level assets. To return that drive to you would be a massive breach of your own policy. I'm simply remembering my place as you suggested. The silence on the other end was absolute, save for his ragged breathing. He knew. He had built a fortress of legal technicalities to keep people like me down, and now those same walls were trapping him inside a collapsing building. Leo, please. I didn't mean it. I cut him off, my voice dropping into something cold and final. You said I was a fly on your windshield, Julian. But you forgot one thing. Flies see everything. And right now, I see a man sitting in a $40 million room that he can no longer prove he owns. You didn't just fire a servant today, you fired the only person who knew how to keep your world from falling apart. I walked into the nearest police station, handed the drive to a sergeant as lost property, and walked back out into the rain. Julian Thorne was still in his penthouse, but for the first time in 5 years, the shadow was finally standing in the light. He was now just a man in a very expensive cage, watching his world turn into dust. He was finally truly alone.